Welcome to episode 469 of Geektown Radio. I'm your host, Dave, and with me this week is Matt. How are you doing?
I'm all right, David. How are you?
I'm doing okay, thanks. It's been a few weeks since you've been on. What have you been up to?
I am behind on these two shows I'm going to be talking about, but still seen a chunk of them. I've got one episode of Foundation to catch up with. I kept meaning to over the last couple of days, but it's one that does require attention. I've also been playing Expedition 33, so that also requires a lot of attention.
Right,
as
yes.
well. Yeah, with both of those. Fantastic so far. It does feel like a bit of a different season this time, but I don't think that's remotely a bad thing. Have the time jump at the start. It feels like a fresh start to the story, not in a way of a reboot or anything like that. You still very much have the canon of what's going on. I have quite enjoyed when they do the passing of time and stuff, the sort of going in and out those particular machines and how they've shown that, which has been great. The production value's been absolutely top notch with the show. The action's been really good with it. As long as I get the general gist of what's going on and then try to understand the layers around it, because the layers around everything are quite complicated, but it's still done an excellent job of that. And yeah, still been really enjoying it so far. When you say something like one of the best shows on TV at the moment, TV isn't the way it used to be, but for things like currently ongoing TV, it's probably one of the best things. It does require that attention from you. It's genuinely a show where I feel like, and there were a couple of times where I'm like, wait a minute, what did that person say? I almost feel like if I miss any line, I want to try and catch every detail of it. I've loved the Mule character this season. He's really intriguing. And
yes,
I can't remember the name of the actor. I'm pretty sure I've seen him around before, but he's really good in the role, especially his opening scene. I won't spoil anything, but he shows up and he's like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm like, okay, to see how far you get. And then they show you the results. And I was like, oh, wow, that was a really great way to set that character up. You think, how is anybody supposed to stop him? And saw the other scene with all the planets. That was pretty devastating as well. He's one of those villains where if he's smiling at something, it's not an overconfident sort of thing. So I've been very impressed with him. I really like what they've done with Day, Dawn and Dusk. Those have been really intriguing, as well as...
I'm loving Checked Out Day in this season.
Yeah.
He's like, it's all screwed. We're all going to die. The Empire's going to fall. I'm just going to run away and get drunk. He's just brilliant. I really enjoyed Lee Pace getting to play with that as a slightly different, because Day has always been the one that's in control and command, and then this season he's just completely checked out, which is just hilarious. And it's been wildly entertaining fun, that.
Yeah, I agree, because even from last season's version and this season's version, both like quite different, but it does a really great job with that. So that's been really great as well. I've always liked, I can never remember her name, but the sort of robot lady who can dismantle herself. I've always quite liked that character. She's been really great as well this season, especially they've explored, I don't know about backstory, but they've explored like a bit more of her character as well. And I quite enjoyed that. So that's been great. Only one episode behind. I think that's episode 6 or 7. You can tell like things are building a bit, and it's just before that sort of build up part to move into the end of the season, you can start to see them seeding their way into the story. Anyway, what do you think of it so far? Are you caught up?
I am up to date with it. I absolutely love it. Pilu Ashbak, I think, is the guy that plays the Mule this season. I was trying to place where I'd seen him before. He's Euan Greyjoy in Game of Thrones, the guy that was control of the fleet. That didn't really do anything, but not getting to Game of Thrones right now. But yeah, that's where he's from. He's brilliant in this. Absolutely superb. Yeah, I think that's been great. I completely agree that it's an interesting shakeup. The first 2 seasons, you do get like different things because there is always that time jump from season to season. But the Dawn, Day and Dusk dynamic this season is interesting. You've got Dawn trying to actually do something to prevent this crisis. You've got Day completely checked out and thinking that there's nothing we can do. He's just going away with his girlfriend to drink. And then you've got Dusk, who is trying to be stoic and stick to what Empire always was supposed to be. Yeah. You've got this huge fracturing of the three of them. And whereas before they were much closer. So I think that's been a really interesting dynamic. The revelation of the other foundation and all that stuff is starting to play into it a lot more this season as well. It's just been really well put together. And I've said before that when you read the novels, I think a lot of people looked at it when you can't film this, but they're managing to do it. And I don't know, I haven't read the novels myself, so I don't know how close or far away it is and what they've had to do to make that work. But from the people that have read this book, they have said that it seems to do a reasonable job of it. I've been really impressed just with what they did. Also nice to see Alexander Siddig pop up, Dr. Bashir from Deep Space Nine in this season and many other things. He was in Game of Thrones as well. It's nice to see him pop up in a sort of smaller role on this season as well. It's been great.
Who's he in this?
He is the psychohistorian that goes and tries to talk to Selden at one point. I think you must have got to that episode because it's quite early on.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yes. He's the psychohistorian that goes to do Selden, then rather upsets Selden and gets kicked out. But yes, he's in there as well. He's probably most famously known as Dr. Bashir in Deep Space Nine, I would think. But cool. Yeah, he's great. Yeah. There's some great cast in there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to pick a best actor this year because, wow, there's been so many good performances. Just across, like games, TV, for like Expedition 33 as well. And even in what I played earlier this year, South of Midnight, some really great stuff in there. Yeah, and you can only pick one winner, really. Speaking of outstanding performances, I've got 2 episodes left of Handmaid's Tale. This is the 6th and final season, I want to say. It feels like the 8th and final season. It feels like it has been around a while. Not in the way of saying it's welcome, but just it feels like it's been around for years. Plus the fact that we don't get a season every year. Like I said, with Foundation, it's hurtling towards its season finale. Obviously, Handmaid's Tale is doing that in an even stronger situation because it's heading towards its series finale. I've got 2 episodes left. And it's really starting to ramp things up. And just even from the side characters, like the extra characters, and then you've got the main characters, all of them are pulling out what I would nearly say are career-defining performances. You've got someone like Yvonne Strahovski, who you would have seen in 24 and a bunch of other stuff, as Serena, and she's in a new position and this potential new husband in the story as well, and what are his intentions. That's been really interesting. There was a particular scene, I'm trying to dodge around spoilers because there's some big ones. There was June, of course, Elizabeth Moss, and she was delivering a speech, as she often does it in the show. This was a really character-changing speech in one of the recent episodes I watched. Even from the other characters around her, the facial acting, how they were responding to her delivery and everything else. It was incredible. They also added Janet from The Good Place. She's one of the, keeps an eye on the handmaids, that sort of thing. Right. Is it Darcy O'Carden? Is that her name? It's something like that.
Sounds right, yes.
Yeah. She's popped up in a couple of the episodes and she's been really fantastic. I can't wait to see how it ends in terms of this story I've followed for so long. The reason, because in and around seasons 3, 4, or 5, started to get a bit dragged, where it was, okay, we get that these women are going through a very serious situation, but it started to just like really drag its heels and be, I don't know if too abusive is the right word for something like The Handmaid's Tale because of what it is. So it got into that territory, and I remember it was after season 1 when they went past the books, a lot of people were wondering how long they needed to tell this story, and it got itself out of that and pushed itself forward. Only 2 episodes left, so very good. Looking forward to seeing where it goes, where it finishes, who lives and dies. There could be a couple more deaths. It's supposed to be doing this sequel series, which we talked about before.
Yes.
And they are, I won't spoil what's going on in the season, but they've been talking about this sort of new Gilead thing. And the idea, at least with 2 episodes left, hasn't been cemented yet. But Serena's got like, hey, yeah, we can do something like we were doing before, but we'll do it much, much nicer. Yes. Hopefully. And she's been setting that up and stuff. So that's been pretty good. If the idea that she's got comes to fruition, it'll be much better. But if the commanders get their way, it'll be just like it was before. So we'll see where that is by the end of episode 10. Where are you at with the season?
I was trying to figure out where I'd actually got to because I was watching it and then I went on holiday and I haven't picked it back up since. I keep on seeing it on Prime and I'm like, I really need to watch the rest of that. I think I'm up to episode 7 at the moment. So I'm only 1 or 2 episodes behind you, I think. because there are 10 episodes in the season. I'm not actually that far behind you, I don't think. I mean, I have been enjoying this, but I agree that it is at a point where it does need to come to an end. I think that there is only so far you could actually stretch out that story, but I agree that in the middle seasons, there were points where you think they are stretching that a little bit. I've been enjoying most of what I've seen so far this season. I have seen a few people not happy with how it ends without knowing exactly why. So I will make that judgment when I get to the end of it. I'm bracing myself for it to bungle the ending, possibly, but we'll see when we get there. I'll see what I think.
I wonder if that's because I don't know the context of that either. I wonder if they could have concluded it more definitively, but didn't because there's a sequel series.
Yeah, I do wonder that as well. The sequel series was based on another novel she wrote called The Testaments, and this follow-up series is going to be called The Testaments as well, I believe. This show has gone vastly beyond the book itself because the book is basically season 1 and you don't really find out in the book what happens to June. The book actually ends with a group of people essentially exploring what happened and reading the Handmaid's Tale from a diary. So we don't know exactly what happened in Gilead, but we have this testament from a handmaid about what she experienced. That's where the novel originally ends. And then she wrote the second novel, which still had Gilead as a thing and had handmaids and that sort of stuff. So that was always made me slightly nervous, is that it's going to be difficult to round this off in a satisfying way when you've got that sequel series coming. But we'll have to see what happens with that when we both get there.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, that's my couple of things. How about you?
Working through a couple of new shows. Have you looked at Alien Earth yet?
I would like to, but I don't know. When does it take place and all that sort of thing? Or is it a new
It
thing?
is a prequel to the films. It takes place slightly before the first movie is, I think, the idea. And the basic setup for it is the opening episode introduces a premise with 3 separate destinies for the immortality for mankind. These are cybernetically enhanced humans, artificial intelligent beings, and synthetic beings downloaded with a human consciousness, so hybrids. So that's one of the sort of plot lines that you're following. And you start off in the opening much like the original Alien. It's a group of people on a long-term space vessel, awakened from sleep. Something goes wrong and the vessel crashes on Earth as it's trying to re-enter. The thing that goes wrong is they're carrying alien samples, and one of those samples is an alien. That forces it to crash land into Earth. And then you meet this young woman and a ragtag group of tactical soldiers who make a discovery that puts them face to face with the planet's biggest threat, which is obviously the alien. But that opening episode, I really struggled with because it's structured as, here's an interesting group of people. Oh, they're all dead. Here's an interesting character. Oh, she's had her consciousness moved into a completely different body, so it's now a different actress. So you have this sort of first half hour of the episode where it introduces a bunch of people that immediately you're never going to see again. I know it's trying to set up the world. I just think there must have been a better way to do it. It feels very disjointed and bitty, and it's like, well, who are these people? Oh, I don't need to remember them now because they're no longer there. And it's all over the place. I know it's got huge ratings from wonderful reviews of people saying how brilliant it is. I've only watched the opening episode so far, and I'm hoping that as you get further into it, it settles down a bit. But that opening is just all over the place. So just bear that in mind while you're watching it. It looks beautiful, and the aesthetic they've got for it, particularly on that opening ship, is very similar to the original Alien. And they've worked incredibly hard to do that. But like I say, that original crew and ship is gone within the first 15 minutes. It's an odd one for me. I wouldn't say don't go and watch it. And obviously, if you're an Alien fan, that is part of the problem possibly for me as well. I like Aliens a lot. I like the original Alien a lot. The other movies are hit and miss. But I'm not somebody that's completely steeped in it and like a massive sort of Uber fan and watched everything Alien ever. I don't know whether it's that or whether I just wasn't in the right frame of mind for it. I'm not sure. But based on the opening episode, I wouldn't be raving about it as much as a lot of other people seem to be. I will watch a bit more of it and maybe it'll land a bit better and I'll get more into it. But it is weird how they open it with a bunch of characters that are pointless because you're never actually going to see them again and you probably could have compressed that into 5 minutes. It's a slightly odd way of doing it. So yeah, I'm not sure so far.
Yeah, I've seen the first Alien film. I watched it last year for classic reviews. I haven't seen Aliens yet, but I really did like what I saw from the first Alien film and I was curious to explore more of it. So I am interested in this. I just didn't know when it took place or whatever else.
Yeah, in terms of the timeline, I believe it's a prequel to all the films. It's going to be interesting what you think of Aliens if you haven't seen that, because tonally it's completely different from Alien. It's a great film. I know there are a lot of purists who will hate this, but I actually like Aliens more than the original Alien movie. It's a bit more sort of action and has a lot more classic dialogue. It's one of those movies that I think they nailed completely. But yeah, I say the series looks great. I'm reserving judgment until I've watched a little bit more of it because I'm not completely sold based on the opening episode. So we'll see. Another new show I looked at was Butterfly, which is a new series. It's a spy thriller. It's on Prime Video and is based on a comic book from Boom Studios. It features Daniel Day Kim in the lead role and has hints of Citadel, that big thing they were trying to make a huge franchise. And then once Jennifer Salk, who was the person shepherding it at Prime Video, left, the whole thing just disappeared. I think there is a second season of it coming because they've already shot it, but I think that will probably be it for it. There are elements of that in that it's a sort of big secret organization. The setup for this one is you open in South Korea. Daniel's character is singing karaoke and he stumbles out of the room drunken. The two people say, "Hey, your friend's really drunk." The other guy goes, "I thought he was your friend." So he's clearly crashed the party. He walks out the room. He's straight upright and not drunk at all. He's play acting it to get into a particular room on that floor of this karaoke tower. It turns out he's hunting somebody and there is a girl about to make an assassination attempt. We don't know whether he's trying to stop the assassination or whether there's something else going on. It's fun. It's quite well done. Daniel Day Kim is great in the lead role as this sort of spy. I really like him in that. It's got Piper Perabo in there, who you'll know from Ugly Coyote, among the things that she's probably very renowned for. Covert Affairs, her TV series, of course. But she plays the current head of this secret spy organization, which has connections to some of the characters. I enjoyed the opening episode of it. If you like big spy thrillers, I think this is quite a fun one. As I say, it is technically based off a comic book, but it doesn't feel very comic booky. It feels more like a sort of made-for-TV spy series. It's called Butterfly. It is on Prime Video if you want to check that out. Have you seen anything about this?
No, I don't remember hearing of it until you mentioned it.
It does seem to have slightly flown under the radar, which doesn't fill me with confidence that he's going to get another season. But I think it's still worth taking a look at. But yes, on Prime Video right now. And I think all episodes are up. There's 6 episodes and they're all up. So you can check that out there. Other things, Scandal. I am still working my way through. I'm about 3/4 of the way through season 3 at this point. Very much enjoying it. We are starting to get to the point where all the characters have started to become extremely unlikable. And I've said previously, there were a lot of comparisons between this and Shonda Rhimes' other show, How to Get Away with Murder. The problem with How to Get Away with Murder was that everybody in that show ended up being just awful and you didn't want to root for any of them. I think with Scandal, they're still just about managing to walk that line. Every character is not great. They've all done something wrong pretty much. There's a lot of characters in there that are just not great people, but thankfully I think they've been slightly more entertaining to watch than some of the others in something like How to Get Away with Murder, and it's been highly entertaining. I know I'm very late to this show. It's been out for a very long time, but yeah, I'm still enjoying working my way through that right now. Other series that are newer, Dexter Resurrection, I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Dexter, and I think this season has been very much back on form. It's very much back to him being the serial killer, but it tweaked and altered enough to make it interesting and different. A different city, he's in New York, so there's a different environment. It's not the same sort of Miami stuff. He is still dodging the cops, still doing his serial killer thing. But they have done a really good job with it, and it's been very entertaining. So if you dropped off the main show towards the end of it, understandably, Resurrection is quite a good place to jump back in again. And Outlander Blood of My Blood, I'm still working my way through the third episode at the moment. My only criticism of that show is they don't balance it particularly well, because you've got these two things, which are the characters which are Claire's parents, and you've got the characters which are Jamie's parents, and an awful lot of it is about Jamie's parents and clan politics. They don't really seem to be focusing much on Claire's parents. I don't know whether they're going to do what they did in the first two episodes. The first episode was Jamie's parents with a little bit of Claire's parents, and the second episode was Claire's parents with a little bit of Jamie's. And the third episode seems to be back to Jamie's parents. I don't know whether they're going to go back to Claire's parents for the fourth episode, and maybe that's just how they're going to do it. But it is a little odd that it seems more weighted on the Jamie side right now, unless, like I say, you get to episode 4 and it's all back on Claire again. I'd preferred if they'd balanced it in the episodes rather than doing one episode focused on one and one episode focused on the other. But apart from that, if you're a fan, you're going to enjoy it because it's more of the same, really. But yes, that is up and available on MGM Plus if you want to go and watch that one. So that's all the stuff we've been watching this week. Let's move on to some TV and film news. So we kick off the TV and film news with the renewals, cancellations and pickups. We have a few cancellations, although nothing that I think anybody's drastically going to miss, if I'm all honest. There's a reality show called Cheat Unfinished Business, which apparently was hosted by Amanda Holden, which was on Netflix. They cancelled it after one season. I couldn't even be bothered to look into what that was, but I mean, it was some sort of dating show thing, I think. There was a BBC show hosted by Sarah Cox, a book review series called Between the Covers. Apparently, the BBC are not bringing that back after 8 seasons. And ITV have, in quotes, cancelled Noel Edmonds' Kiwi adventure, although Noel himself disagrees with that statement in the strongest possible terms, because he basically said it wasn't cancelled. I actually only agreed to let them on the property to film one season. We were never talking about doing more than a one-off. So it's not being cancelled. It wasn't something I was planning on continuing. It was just a one-off thing. Yes, he disagrees with that. But if you enjoyed the season, they aren't making any more of it. There you go. I'd be surprised if you've even heard of any of those shows.
No, I know who some of those people are, but
yeah.
No.
As I say, I don't think there's anything anybody's particularly going to miss from the cancellations too much. On the renewal side, Bridge of Lies, the game show hosted by Ross Kemp, has been renewed for a 5th season by BBC One. BBC have recommissioned Waterloo Road for 2 more seasons, returning in September for season 16, and now either been renewed up to 18 or 19, because I'm sure they announced previously that it was renewed for 2 more seasons, which I thought took it up to 17, in which case the 2 new seasons they've just announced will be 18 and 19, but I might be wrong about that.
It'll probably go past that anyway, so.
Yeah, it will probably get renewed again. I suspect that it'll get renewed after that. It is one of those, technically a drama, but soapy sort of drama as well.
I remember watching that when I was late high school. Something like that, because this is the original version I'm talking about.
It went off for a bit.
Finished, if I remember. And then I did used to really enjoy it, but I think if I was to go back to it, I would actually want to start it like, unless I started recognizing early episodes and I could skip over those because I'd seen them before. The last thing I remember was when this was ages and ages ago, so this isn't really a current spoiler at all, is like the school had, I can't remember if it was a bomb or something else, but it was collapsing for a reason that I can't remember. There were people obviously in peril. I can't remember what happened after that, because you're talking probably over 10 years ago, well over 10 years ago. And it just, like, TV wasn't what it was now, so I just lost track of it, and then now it's on this new thing. So it was always been one I'm curious to go back to, but I need to just find a starting point. But there'll probably be quite a lot of that to go through as well. Did you ever check any of it out?
I didn't know, just bypassed me completely until I started doing the website, and it was like, they're bringing Waterloo Road back. It was like, oh, okay, fine. But yeah, that has been hugely popular. It is a really big draw for the BBC. It's no great shock that they're bringing that back for more. John Richardson, I think, is one of the new cast this time around. I know Jason Manford did it last year. They've got John Richardson, I think. It's a nice place for comedy actors to show a few drama chops, I think. So season 16, anyway, is coming back in September, and there will be 2 more seasons after that, at least, if not more. There's a number of things which are not renewals, but renewal adjacent, I would call them. So like the Traitors US version, if you've been watching that on the BBC, that was always a celebrity version. They're now doing a civilian version of that with the general public. So they've ordered that at NBC. So presumably we'll end up getting that as well over here. It's odd because the UK version was a sort of civilian version of it. And then I think only recently they've done a celebrity version. And the US was the other way around. They always had a celebrity version, and now they're going to do a civilian version of it. There is that coming. If you want more Traitors, there will be more of that. There was a little bit of news about Daredevil Born Again, where Charlie Cox was on a panel at GalaxyCon in the US. And he was talking through shooting stuff for season 2, and at one point referred to it as the final season. Audible gasp from the audience, but didn't correct the final season comment that he made. And then Vincent D'Onofrio went on social media and corrected it for him and said, I believe Charlie meant the last season we actually shot, meaning the second season. Yet he used the term final season, so it's a bit confusing. But Charlie and I have discussed, and we both agree that there's a very good chance of a third season. And he has repeated that a number of times, saying, yes, there probably is a fair chance that we will get a third season as well. I enjoyed the first season of it. I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was good to get back to all of that. I feel like they're doing the opposite, which is like slowly bringing a lot of the characters back, especially with recent Spider-Man news, which has been brilliant to see. Maybe he did just misspeak. If you misspeak in this industry, then things can
if you
go wrong quite quickly.
At a panel, it's one of those things that suddenly somebody's videoing it and it's all over the place. He does say that they've been having discussions about where they could go for a third season. We do know this is one of those rare cases where the actors have actually had some involvement in shaping the story for this, because they completely retooled it. So I think there is a possibility that there may be a third season. They're not confirming it one way or another, but it's not definitive that there is only going to be 2 seasons of Daredevil Born Again. That's all they've ordered right now. And the other bit of news that popped up was apparently Brookside. Do you remember that soap?
I do,
is going to make a sort of return to TV as part of a crossover with Hollyoaks. Brookside was the forerunner to Hollyoaks. They're both made by Phil Redmond. Hollyoaks films on some of the Brookside sets. I believe so, yeah. When the show ended. Hollyoaks is coming up to its 30th anniversary, and as part of that 30th anniversary in October, they're going to be shooting an episode which will feature Brookside Close and some of the cast from Brookside as well. I think that's quite a nice way of honouring the legacy and the parent show, because Hollyoaks probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Brookside, and certainly wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Phil Redmond. So I think that's quite a nice way of just honouring that when it comes to the 30th anniversary.
Yes, it'll be very interesting to see what they do. You do at the moment have a serial killer running around, so he's been picking people off. Maybe one of these Brookside characters won't make it through that. And do you remember last year when I talked about their big change, like cutting 20 characters? I don't know when the count of these 20 started and ended specifically. I know that Stephanie Waring, who played Cindy for ages, and whoever played Tom, although Tom's supposed to be coming back, he's coming out of prison for some reason. I know they did cut some big people, but they still had exits happening anyway. In terms of screen time, there's a bit of room in the village at the moment. There's a discussion in the community about a couple of flat spots that don't have any characters living in them at the moment. So there's more space in the village than recently. There have been people having exits. But no, you're right in terms of the 30th anniversary and honouring that show, which should be very interesting to see. And we'll probably also have some big exits in it as well.
Probably,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Sorry for, I can't remember his name at the moment, but the guy who plays Tony, I think he's the only original character left.
Nick Pickford.
Yeah, Nick Pickford.
Yes.
Whenever it does come up to a big stunt or a big anniversary, it's always going to be his time to go. Like, you'd hope they'd keep people like that sticking around for as long as possible. You want your sort of legacy characters like Jack as well, who's a bit older and that sort of thing. I think they are supposed to be doing, remember when they did Hollyoaks Later, which was like the sort of 10 p.m.
Yeah, they're bringing that back as well, I think.
They're doing that for one episode, which they haven't done for years. So it'd be very interesting to see how this all culminates together and who's alive after it all finishes.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've ever looked in on Hollyoaks, but I thought you might like that one because I know you still watch. Yeah. We have got a few advanced air dates which have dropped over the week. The Diplomat, the Netflix series, is back for a third season and they've announced the date for that. That's on the 16th of October. That lands for season 3. Season 4 has also been ordered as well. Mayor of Kingstown, season 4, that lands on Sunday, the 26th of October on Paramount Plus, and Landman season 2 lands Sunday, the 16th of November on Paramount Plus as well. And also Fallout season 2. We haven't got an exact date for this, but it's coming in December. It's come around quicker than I thought it might do.
Yeah, I think it was last week's Gaming Talks. We were talking about the recent stray of video game adaptations, and he said they were just recently talking about filming because we were both like, oh yeah, probably next year, which December's as close as you can get to that without it being that. But it's interesting. I wonder if did they drop it all at once last time, didn't they?
I can't remember.
I think they did.
I think they did.
So I'd be curious to see if they do the same strategy there. But yeah, December's a funny kind of month for that, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's an 18-month-ish turnaround, which
Roughly.
is quicker than we'd expect. It was April 2024 when it came out. Yeah. We usually expect them to be 2 years. So the fact that they've done it in that time is actually not bad, particularly for a show that big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad they managed to do that.
That'll be at the same time as, maybe not the same week or something, but Stranger Things has got a bunch of its episodes around December as well.
Yeah, so I wonder if that's part of the reason as well, maybe. But yeah. Just going back to Paramount Plus, as we mentioned, a couple of those shows returning, which are Taylor Sheridan shows, who he's not going anywhere from Paramount Plus. We talked last week about the huge merger with Paramount and Skydance, but we didn't really know much about their content strategy, priorities, or how they're going to handle things. And they've been doing a lot of press since the merger was announced, talking more about that. So I thought that might be worth looking at. So the person that is in charge of direct-to-consumer overseeing Paramount Plus and Pluto TV is Cindy Holland. She's the former VP of original content at Netflix. You can see what she's doing with this being Netflix-esque, hopefully without the cancellations, but we'll see with that. They have said they will be commissioning more original programming and also commissioning from outside studios, because up until now, they have been relying on CBS Studios, Showtime, MTV, Entertainment Studios, and Nickelodeon for kid stuff. And they're now saying that they want the best content they can get. And the way to do that is to invite people from outside to pitch stuff to them. So you might see shows made by Sony, for example. You might see stuff made by Disney, possibly, on there. Although I think that's less likely because they tend not to make stuff for outside studios. But Sony is one of the ones that does make quite a lot of stuff for outside studios. There's a lot of smaller independent people. Lionsgate, for example, make things for other people, as did Skydance themselves. Skydance, one of the people responsible for Foundation, for example. They've decided to open that gate again and allow external studios to come in, which I think is a sensible idea. It's obviously what they do at Netflix, work with independent studios. It gives you a much wider breadth of stuff that you can do and potentially spreads the cost around a little bit because you can sort out different licensing deals if you're dealing with external studios as well. We'll see exactly how that pans out, but they are saying they are not walling it off anymore. They are going to allow external studios, which I think is probably a decent idea. They're also talking about tweaking the system a little bit. So the investment's not just in shows, but in the platform itself. And they want better audience data so they can recommend more relevant content to each subscriber, which is very much what Netflix does. Netflix, for all its faults in cancelling things, does tend to be very good at pushing things at you that it thinks you will like.
And if you've already seen that thing, they still email you about it.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. When you go onto that front screen, they are usually pretty good at pushing stuff at you that they think you are probably going to like. And whether exactly they're getting that audience data from, that's an entirely different thing. But overall, I'm cautiously okay about them doing that. I think that makes sense. They're also saying they're going to experiment more with release patterns. They're not just going to binge drop stuff and they're not just going to drop weekly. They are looking at doing a mix. So some things will depend on what the show is and whether they think it's worth dropping as a box set or going out weekly. They do that at the moment. It tends to be for older shows internationally. They sometimes drop them as box sets. They often run things weekly when they're also running on things like Showtime, which I think still has a broadcast channel in the US. With things like Star Trek, they drop that weekly and that only runs in a Paramount Plus. In the future, you might see them drop an entire series or half a series at one go like they do with Netflix. They say they're going to look at experimenting with the release patterns on that. They've also said that Taylor Sheridan is not going anywhere, which is good because it would lose them half their content pretty much. Lioness and the Madison, the latest spin-off of Yellowstone, are both apparently poised to renewals. The two that I mentioned earlier, Landman and Mara Kingstein, are both Taylor Sheridan ones as well. So they're not letting him go. He's going to carry on creating content for them. So that is good news. They did mention one TV show. That's the only new thing that they've actually mentioned at the moment. It's called 9/12 as opposed to 9/11. The reason it's called 9/12 is it's based on heavily researched accounts that tell the story of our first responders of 9/11 and pays tribute to those who are impacted. So I think rather than focusing on the events before and the event itself, it is the aftermath of it. It's going to be starring Jeremy Strong from Succession. It's got some interesting people behind it that are writing and exec producing it. Tobias Lindholm, who worked on Mindhunter, and Frank Pergolese, who worked on House of Cards. So decent enough writers behind it. It was originally a Skydance production. And then when all the Skydance Paramount deals started, it got hung up and shelved for a bit. It will be a little while before they started because Jeremy Strong is working on something called The Boys from Brazil for Netflix right now. I think it sounds like it could be a sort of interesting one. It's a different look at the sort of 9/11 stuff if it's the direct aftermath of it.
Yeah, I'd rather that, not that this story is nice to visit or talk about anyway, but I'd rather have that than just like another telling of almost the same thing again. Yeah.
Things that they have marked that they have said these are things that we aren't focused on, and some of these make perfect sense. Multi-camera comedies, because CBS already supplies those and makes those. They're not going to start making those at Paramount Plus. Procedurals, again, because CBS, why would you? They've also said that streaming movies aren't a priority right now. So the money that would have gone into creating things like streaming movies, like the ill-fated Star Trek Section 31, that's not going to happen anymore. They're focusing on theatrical releases for films, and the money in the budget for movies will get shifted into TV series instead, which I think makes more sense because it's very rare that a streamer has a film made for streaming that will draw people to that streamer. They'll pick up something previously in theaters which may pull people in, but you won't keep them there with that film. They might watch it and then move on to something else. Whereas with series, you are keeping them there for longer, and there is a chance that they'll go on to something else. So I think movies that are made directly for streaming seems like a sort of lost cause to me. And I think that makes rather more sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a fine line though between, what was it they used to call them, when you have films made for TV sort of episodes, and then you have streaming movies, but then you have these sort of longer special, there's a particular name for them which isn't coming to mind right now, but like when you make a longer TV episode.
Yeah, a feature length episode of something.
Like that, yeah, there's a particular phrase for it, that you would do that more than just like a streaming movie, kind of makes sense. The only issue with that approach is the box office is quite, in a certain way, busy and not busy, but busy in a different way this year. And I remember speaking about this a couple of years ago. You had COVID happening and films getting delayed and pushed, and then the writer's strike happened. And then those films getting delayed and pushed again, creating a domino effect. I think certainly within the last month or two, you've really started to see a lot of films coming out. There's a big discussion at the moment about why certain films aren't performing as much, and there may be reasons for that. But if you have, say, 4 big films out at a certain point, like July's releases, you have a new Jurassic film, a new Superman film, and a new Fantastic Four film. Those are 3 pretty big IPs, and they've all come out within about 4 weeks of each other. We're all fighting for that box office money. And that's a bit of a rarer situation. But then you have like your smaller, I noticed so many times, and maybe it's more of a thing over here, there's so many small horror films I hear about and how they're all really good. You've got ones that get more of a spotlight, let's say things like Weapons, which has just come out, which has got more eyes on it. But then you've got like other ones that just don't quite get that film runway. So that's the only argument I'd make against doing this. But then I do think it makes more sense for studios to do films made for cinema rather than just for streaming. I think it's about maybe finding that right balance. Again, we've just come away from the COVID thing and the writer's strike thing, and that couldn't be helped as much.
I think it does make sense in that these theatrical films are going to end up on the streaming service anyway.
Oh yeah,
It's just that they're aiming to make everything a theatrical release, and then it will go onto a streaming service afterwards. I think part of that is Cindy saying the budget that I have for Paramount Plus, I would rather spend on series than making films. There will be a separate pot for the movie stuff. From her point of view, it makes perfect sense to do it that way, because I don't think her making movies or her commissioning movies for Paramount Plus directly makes a whole lot of sense when the thing that is going to draw somebody to Paramount Plus to watch a film is likely to be something that has already been a theatrical release. So I can see her sense in that. And if it means that they've got more money to spend on TV series, great. I think that makes it far more interesting and potentially get a lot more TV series on Paramount Plus. Speaking of the films, though, they have talked about what are their priorities for the big screen. Star Trek, obviously being a huge Paramount brand, is one of the things, although it's slightly confused with 2 different big industry papers giving slightly different answers to this. Star Trek, according to one side, has said that they're going to look at it holistically. So rather than being siloed off between different parts of the company, such as TV and film, we're going to make sure that there are conversations happening together so we can do what's best for the brand as a whole. So it sounds like they're trying to integrate the film and TV stuff into one thing, which the only way I can see that working is you're going to take the TV characters and move them into the film, and that is going to be the sort of combined thing. However, you go to one other industry thing and said the 2 films that they have in development right now include a prequel film, possibly featuring brand new characters from Tony Haynes, director behind Andor, Seth Grahame-Smith, who worked on the Lego Batman movie and wrote the novels Pride, Prejudice and Zombies and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. He is writing, but the people producing are J.J. Abrams and Simon Kinberg. The other project in development is a Kelvin Timeline 4th Star Trek movie with Chris Pine's Kirk and Spock and the rest of them, with Abrams directing and Steve Yockey writing, who worked on things like Dead Boy Detectives, Flight Attendant and Supernatural. They're saying they want this holistic approach, but the 2 things they have in development seem to be coming from the Abrams end and not the TV end. It's possible those 2 things get canned and they decide to take some of the TV stuff, and whether it's a next generation thing, whether it's a Star Trek legacy movie or something in the main timeline, not Kelvin timeline, I don't know. So it's still a bit confused. But their direct quote is they want a holistic approach to mash the film and TV stuff back together, which it always was until JJ released the films. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not caught up with the Strange New World and that, but that's your main thing at the moment. We heard recently that's coming to an end. And then you've got a few things floating around because of the Starfleet Academy thing. You've got this thing you just mentioned and the JJ stuff. You need to shuffle your deck a bit and figure out what's the main thing you're doing and what's the side stuff. As you've written down, getting a film out the door, which is the same problem that Star Wars has.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, people can talk all they want about oversaturation with Star Wars, which is fine on the TV side because there's been a few of them. But we haven't had a film for 6 years and it will be 7 years next year. But over the years, I've kept hearing about, because I don't think I've ever seen any of those JJ films. And I kept hearing like over the years about how, oh, it is or isn't in development or it isn't happening. And it just get your stuff in a row and see what you can actually do before shuffling the deck, as I would like to call it. Do you think?
I think bringing them back together would make more sense because they are literally two separate universes at the moment. There is a thread that connects the two of them. That first movie did quite a good job of creating that second timeline and attaching it to the prime timeline. So whether they're going to do something which pushes those back together in some way, or give them one final movie and then bye-bye to that cast, or whether that just gets scrapped entirely and they do something else. Because as I said, although JJ is producing this thing with new characters, a prequel, there's no reason why you couldn't take that and make it something in the prime timeline instead. I don't know at the moment, but I do think that putting the film and TV back together in one pot makes far more sense to me. We'll see where they land with that, whether that is a dagger through the heart of Star Trek 4 actually happening or not. I like the guy that's writing it. Steve Yoki is a fantastic writer. Dead Boy Detectives is great. Supernatural was fun. Flight Demo was great. He's got some good credits. I mean, there was, of course, at one point, Quentin Tarantino was offering to write a Star Trek thing. There was a quote from Simon Pegg recently saying that I'd seen some of the stuff for that. It was completely nuts, as you would expect from Quentin Tarantino. I would be fascinated to see what that idea was. I don't know that it's floating around anywhere, but yes, I would be completely fascinated to see what he would have done with it.
Yeah, who knows what scripts and ideas are floating out now. So.
Yes. So that's Star Trek. They have, of course, at Paramount got a number of other properties as well. Top Gun 3, apparently, is something that they're very keen on as a top priority because Top Gun Maverick made them a lot of money. They're still in the Tom Cruise business, even though Mission Impossible, which is their other big franchise, has come to an end, but they would like to do a Top Gun 3. So we may be seeing that in the not too distant future. The one that was slightly eyebrow-raising was World War Z, depending on what side of the Atlantic you're on. The 2013 Brad Pitt zombie movie is apparently on the priority list for having a sequel. Did you ever see this? It's a zombie thing.
I did, yeah. I don't quite remember how it finished. It's been a long time. But the thing I remember was there was a dam and the zombies climbed on top of each other and pulled a helicopter down. That was pretty cool. Yep. Then they made a game which wasn't very good. When it comes to zombie or apocalyptic or infected franchises, World War Z is not one that is at the forefront of my mind.
Yes, that was slightly eyebrow-raising. I mean, they have other things which sort of get a secondary mention of other key film series they're looking to keep alive. Transformers, I mean, of course. Yeah. G.I. Joe, they've got as well. Terminator, which, I mean, I don't know what you do with that at this point. Every time they try to revive it, it died horribly.
I would really like them to do something good and consistent with Terminator, because I really do like those films, but the consistency is the problem. They've got a very good idea. And it's also, okay, Arnie's getting older. How many times are going to go back to him? While he might still be up for doing some of this, for them to find a starting point and get some consistency going. Terminators are cool. They're really cool. It's just, what do you do with it?
So, yes, there's that. Quiet Place is also theirs. Smile. And they're also saying a renewed push for R-rated comedy films as well. Yeah, all of that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, Transformers, not particularly interested in. G.I. Joe, I've never really looked at that.
No.
Quiet Place, I'm very into. I really did enjoy Day One, the film they did, and the game that they did as well. Quiet Place Road Ahead. It had a couple of issues, but the idea was really solid, and I'd love another one of those. And it had the whole microphone thing with it. That was really cool. R-rated comedies can be difficult. It's a very specific note to hit, so I'm not as bothered by that. But yeah, Terminator and Quiet Place, I'm very curious to see what they do with those. Going forward.
They have said it's not all sequels. Original films do still matter. The first thing they're greenlit under the new regime is a movie called High Side, which stars Timothée Chalamet and James Mangold. He's the person behind it. The plan currently is to release 7 films in 2026, double that to 15 films in 2027, and grow to 20 films in 2028. All these are intended for theatrical release. Hopefully, there's a variety of budgets. They're not all massive blockbusters, but with some big blockbuster films in the mix. And then a few of them are going to be like mid-budget, and hopefully some of them will be lower budget, because that has stopped being a thing and it really shouldn't be. I mean, 20 a year does sound like quite a lot, but see whether they achieve that or not.
Speaking of budgety stuff, you can do some very effective stuff with low-budget horror films.
Yeah,
that's something else they could look at as well.
Yeah, as I say, only one thing that they've actually officially greenlit, which is this thing called High Side. But those are the other things that they're looking at. They seem to have a plan. I think it's going to be interesting watching what happens with the content of Paramount Plus over the next year or so. See what happens whilst the merger goes through. If it's more original content, and say Skydance have produced some great things, I think this could be kind of interesting, but we'll see with that. Moving over onto Channel 4, they went a bit comedy crazy this week. They now have 4 new comedies. Some of them sound slightly more interesting than others, but I thought there was an interesting mix of things. One's called Pigeon, created and written by Katie Wicks, who you might know from Big Boys, Ghosts, Stocklet Flats, and Adam Drake, who worked on Extraordinary and Juice. It's produced by the people behind Am I Being Unreasonable and The Power of Parker. It follows Catherine, played by Katie, who thought she had all the answers but didn't listen to the question. After failed dreams and some questionable life choices, she's forced to leave the big city, in quotes, of Chester and return to her childhood home in South Wales, the very place she thought she'd escaped. It's described as a flat share comedy where the flat is your family home and your roommates are the people who messed you up in the first place, which I quite like as a sort of descriptor for it. But it's currently called Pigeon, although that is a working title for it. I think that sounds like it could be quite fun. It's Katie Wicks I quite like as well. And I do like the fact that Adam Drake being behind it in Extraordinary, we absolutely love that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, Big Boys has been great. France was obviously a huge thing, and Ghosts was massive as well. I think that has possibilities.
Yeah, I need my next, when I had like Good Place and I had those Extraordinary playlists, I'm looking for my next one of those. I don't think this is going to be that, although who knows? It's a very particular criteria, but some of these little like Channel 4, E4 sitcoms can be really good sometimes. Yeah, we'll see what we get from that.
The next one is called Stepping Up. It's a 6-part sitcom from Rough Cut Television, the people behind Big Boys, written by and starring Josh Pugh, who was in Sneakerheads and is stand-up comedian. Sees Josh play, Josh, an over-enthusiastic stepdad determined to prove himself to his new, previously harmonious family unit. His mission is to be the perfect role model for his stepchildren, the ideal partner to his girlfriend, and an all-round good bloke. The problem is everybody is already fine without his relentless efforts, but that's not going to stop Josh from stepping up anyway. That sounds like it could be quite an interesting idea for a show. I don't know him at all, but yeah, that's a 6-part sitcom for Channel 4. There's one called Break Clause, another 6-part comedy from Jess Bray, who worked on The Outlaws, directed by Alice Snedden, who worked on Starstruck, and produced by BBC Studios, who did Black Ops and Trying. Break Clause stars Samuel Bottomley from Am I Being Reasonable Somewhere Boy, and Laura Ricotti from Mitchell and Webb Not Helping, which is another new comedy thing coming soon, and she plays Lil. Their relationship is over, but the tenancy agreement is not, leaving them stuck sharing the same flat while trying to move move on. Moving out is hard. Moving on from your first love is harder. That sounds like a fairly standard rom-com kind of setup. That's called Break Clause. And the other one is called Schooled, which is another 6-part comedy series from a new writer and creator called Della Rini Donaldson. If you're thinking, hasn't there been a comedy called Schooled before? There was a spin-off from the Goldbergs, which ran for 2 seasons, but this has nothing to do with that. At its core, Schooled is a comedic love letter to teachers and support staff following Kaylee as she deals with offspring infections, AI-generated scandals, and the notorious parent evening. There are a few names in there that you might recognize, like Chihuahua from Sandman, Julie Love, who's you'll know from a bunch of different things, Live at the Apollo, Last One Laughing, Rebecca Humphries from 10% and The Crown, Alex Bahat from Gentleman Jack and Chewing Gum, and a few other people as well. It sounds like a fairly standard sort of school comedy, but it could be good, might not be, but that's called School as well. So none of them sound particularly groundbreaking in their descriptions, but sometimes that's fine. It's about the writing and about the comedy. As I say, Pigeon is the one that stood out to me just because of the people involved in it. But they are coming over the course of the next 12 months. They will be dropping on Channel 4.
Yeah. Schooled and, like you said, Pigeon sound the two most interesting. Stepping up, it depends if that character themselves is good or interesting. It depends on how that element goes. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see with that. That's 4 comedies they picked up. I think some of these came out of that Comedy Blaps, like short form thing. So I think they're up on their YouTube channel. You can go and get those. And I think they're probably available on their streaming on Channel 4 as well. So you might get a sort of feel for what they are from that. Another one on More 4 as well, not a comedy this time, but I just wanted to highlight this. It's called Sandy Toksvig's Hidden Wonders, which very much follows in the footsteps of things like Time Team and The Great British Dig. Feels like a spiritual successor of that. It's actually Sandy Toksvig with Rashika Dave, who worked on Time Team and is visiting active dig sites across the UK, uncovering remarkable finds and piecing together the stories that they tell. I think Sandy's a great choice for this. We've had Tony Robinson and She Dennis were the presenters of the other 2 shows, and I think Sandy fits that mold quite well. It's 4 episodes, and the digs involve both professional and amateur historians. I love these sorts of archaeology shows, so I will definitely be checking this out when it lands on More 4, but it's called Sandy Toksvig Hidden Wonders if you like those sort of things. The last thing that we've just got to mention is, were you aware they're remaking Highlander?
Yep.
Yes, they're remaking Highlander. It's Amazon MGM doing it. And they've found its big bad, by the looks of things. Dave Bautista from, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy and more recently Dune, is in final negotiations to take the role of the immortal barbarian, the Krogan. He'll be squaring off against Henry Cavill, who is playing the Scottish warrior Conor MacLeod. The other key person in there is Russell Crowe, who's playing Ramirez, originally played by Sean Connery, who was supposedly Spanish or Italian and had a Scottish accent for reasons. But Sean Connery didn't want to do another accent for it. And of course, Christopher Lambert was the lead in it. And Clancy Brown was the person that played the Dave Bautista role in the original. It does sound interesting, this, because it's directed by Chad Stahelski, who was the director of John Wick. I think that's quite an interesting person to be as the director for it. I think there's an interesting group of people that have got involved in this Highlander remake, and I think Dave Bautista absolutely fits that role perfectly. I think this could be quite good.
Yeah, I agree. I got some great cast in there. I don't know much about Highlander itself, but I'll let the show do that when I watch it, whenever it obviously does come out. But great to see Henry Cavill, and although he has had some big characters now, he's had obviously Superman, he's been Sherlock Holmes, as well as a few other characters. I know he was in some other films as well. But he's usually pretty good in the things that he does. So yeah, it's lining itself up quite nicely.
Yeah, I think that could work. I can see Russell Crowe taking on that Ramirez role. So there were also names associated with this before Henry Cavill picked it up, from Kit Harington to Stephen Amell to Charlie Hunnam. I mean, there were so many names floating around for this, but I think this could work. We'll see. It is a film that they're doing, planned as a possible trilogy, which is fair enough.
Film? Okay.
Yeah, it's a film, not a series. It's remaking the original film. Don't know when that's coming out. I don't think he's actually started filming yet either, but yeah. So we'll see with that. that's all the news we've got for this week. We've just got some highlights for next week coming up. So, highlights for next week. We have MudTown Season 1 coming to you on Alibi on the 20th of August at 9 p.m. This is a crime drama set at Newport Magistrate Court. It stars Erin Richards and Tom Cullen. If I remember correctly, this was the one they were shooting two versions of, one in English and one in Welsh. So the exact same script, but in two different languages. Yeah, that looks like it could be quite interesting. Erin Richards is great, Tom Cullen's great, but it's called MudTown, 20th of August on You and Alibi at 9 p.m. for that. Hostage, which is a new limited series coming to Netflix. When the British Prime Minister's husband is kidnapped and the French president is blackmailed, two leaders must navigate a dangerous conspiracy. That's coming to Netflix on the 21st of August. Invasion is back for a third season on Apple TV on the 22nd of August. Then one of the big ones, Peacemaker Season 2 lands on Sky Max. That's on the 22nd of August. I'm very much looking forward to that. 24th of August over on ITVX, we've got all three seasons of Stargirl. This is actually a premiere for the third season because that's never aired here before. The first two seasons aired on Prime Video. The third and final season of Stargirl is going to be up on ITVX on the 24th of August, along with the first two seasons, if you want to catch that. Then new big drama from the BBC, King and Conqueror, which is the story of William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings and King Harold. That comes to BBC One on the 24th of August at 9:10. That looks like it's going to be really good. And Upload returns for a final upload. It's a sort of 4-episode event thing that they're doing for the fourth and final season. 25th of August for that. Robbie and Bell back in the comedy from Greg Daniels. I'm very interested to see how they end that. I really enjoyed that series. Fourth and final season of Upload on the 25th of August on Prime Video. So there's some good stuff coming this week. I might check out MudTown. I'm definitely watching Peacemaker. I am watching King and Conqueror. I will be watching Upload. Might see Hostage. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I'm kind of curious about Hostage because it sounds not similar to what's going on in the real world, but it reminded me of the real world. So with our worldly leaders, if that's what you call them. MudTown, I'm not completely sure about. Maybe with that Hostage, I'm interested in Invasion. I'll go back to Stargirl as well. I thought I remembered seeing season 3, but maybe I'm just misremembering that, although it's been a good few years since we did last see that. Looking forward to finishing that off because I did quite like that show. I did think it was very good.
Yeah, it was.
And then, Upload. Looking forward to seeing how that concludes as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so there's some good stuff coming this week, which given it's August, that's not always the case. But yeah, I'm glad that they're dropping things out for us to watch. If people want to catch you and more of your stuff, where can they find you?
You can head over to entertainmenttalk.org or the podcast platforms of the same name for TV, games, films, May Night podcast. The football season is back. We've had our first week of Premier League games. And of course, we lost the first one. So
yes, you did.
We're back. And as I said, within the first minute of the podcast, I'm already tired and looking forward to when we get our next manager.
Yeah, so, I didn't see the match. I did see somebody saying, at least they seem like they're trying now, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they did lose. Description. It was basically what the gist of the article was.
Yeah. Tried in a certain way. The United cast is back, obviously, with that. Still doing gaming talk. I have some things over there. I gave my impressions of Battlefield 6. There was the open beta. I talked a lot about Expedition 33 because Robert finished it and I'm like in the middle of that. So we really enjoyed that. Film reviews. Seems like films won't stop coming out, which I guess is a good thing. Got things like Superman, Fantastic Four, got Jurassic World Rebirth. Weapons is next up on my list to go and see that. I did as well do performing lines from The Last of Us, from the first and second game. One line from like the TV show and stuff. That was an interesting challenge to do, but I really quite enjoyed that. I might actually do it again, but with some different scenes and stuff. So that was really fun to do. That's pretty much what I've been up to with those things. I mean, on pretty much all the social media platforms, either eTalkUK or Entertainment Talk. That's me.
Yeah, so go and find Matt over on social media or on entertainmenttalk.org. For other people involved in the show, you can find Domingus over at Hollywood newssource.com for all his TV, film articles and interviews. Also, go and check Daryl out over at HollywoodNorthNews.net for all those TV series you love which are shot in Canada. For us, you can visit the website at geektown.co.uk throughout the week and see all the latest air date information. If you want to get in touch with your questions or comments, email us on podcast@geektown.co.uk. Leave a message on the website post. Find us at Geektown on Twitter, on Facebook and Facebook.com/Geektown, YouTube at YouTube.com/Geektown, on Twitter, on Facebook and Facebook.com/Geektown, YouTube at YouTube.com/Geektown, Blue Sky at Geektown, Instagram at Geektown UK, TikTok at Geektown UK, and Threads at Geektown UK. That is everything. We shall see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.